Prolonged Encounter. Written and adapted for audio by ButterflyCoffee. 4760, the newly built Ginty, had been working at Newton Abbot for a number of days. Her contribution to the flow of summer traffic was greatly felt by the engines she worked with. Now, Hercule and 4760 were able to shunt wagons and coaches quickly to wherever they were needed, which meant Louise's branch line trains could run on time, and journeys along the main line were no longer delayed. Routes were clear and timetables were finally being kept. The engines were very thankful to the young Ginty for her help, but she couldn't get the awful words that strange pannier had said to her to go away. They sat in the pit of her fire like a cold draught. She didn't know what she had done. "Penny for your fault, sweetheart?" Hercule asked one cool morning. 4760 tried to smile. "It's nothing, Hercule, I promise." "Pity your face ain't convinced. You've been frowning a lot lately. Ain't you happy here?" "Of course I am. I really enjoy working here." "So why the long face?" 4760 sighed in a defeated manner. "It's that tank engine. He said such horrible things to me. He called me a piece of Caledonian scrap, said that I had insulted him just by being here, and told me to clear off to whatever place I came from." Hercule was very quiet for a moment. Finally he asked, "Did this engine look like the back of his cab had been lopped off?" "Yes," the smaller engine replied. Hercule suddenly let off steam, fuming. "That kingdom," he growled. "Just let me catch him. I've got a few words for that stuck-up miserable old git." The 4200 then noticed 4760 shaking and looking frightened. He took a breath to calm himself. "Kingdom is the oldest pannier here. He were built before the other companies came about, he was. So he goes around spouting all this nonsense about how Great Westerns are better than everyone else. Trouble is, he's gone and completely deluded himself. Everyone else is just steaming scrap iron and he ain't afraid to let you know it. That's why we call him Kingdom. He thinks he's better than any other engineer, I'll bet." "What do you mean by other companies?" 4760 asked. Hercule breathed in sharply. "Oh, heck," he groaned. "This'll take us more time than we've got right now, so I'll cut it short. There are 4 railway companies knocking about. Great Western, Southern Railway, London, Midland and Scottish, and London and North Eastern. Newton Abbot is in the Great Western region, hence there being so many panniers and castles kicking around. It's their turf. But the station's in Midland territory too, and those two don't really get on. I don't know why, but they don't. Kingdom's Great Western, and you're London, Midland and Scottish. Ergo, he hates your insides." 4760 was upset. Hercule gently blew steam to get her attention. "Hey," he smiled. "If it's anything to you, he hates my insides too. He hates everyone but his brothers. And most of them are dead anyway," he muttered darkly. Thankfully, 4760 didn't catch what he'd said. Hercule continued, "If you come buffer to buffer with him, just tell him he has ideas so old-fashioned that iron dukes wouldn't be seen scrapped in him, okay?" "Okay," 4760 chuckled. Hercule's sharp sense of humour and dry insults to other engines made her laugh. She then puffed away to collect some wagons for a light freight run. Later that night, Hercule picked up his conversation about the big 4 companies again, trying to explain to a bewildered 4760 why there were such things and how they worked. Young engines never stopped asking questions.
"Oh, for the umpteenth time, Midlander," huffed Lizzie. "The companies are there because they're there, okay? They were set up after the Great War to make the railway networks more efficient to run. Each company controls different sections of line. That's just how it is."
"But why do the London, Midland and Scottish and Great Western companies hate each other?" the Ginty cried. "Can't we just live peacefully together? Why must there be so much hatred? It's not fair!" "Whining like a pathetic engine won't get you anywhere," sniffed Louise.
"Shut your mouth," snapped Hercule. "The young un's got it bad enough as it is with his Royal Highness, and she don't need you giving her jip too, all right?"
"Silence," Duchess commanded. "That's no way to speak to any engine. Either of you." She waited for the calm to return to the shed before speaking directly to the emotional Ginty. 4760, my dear," she said sadly. "The GWR, Great Western, is the oldest railway company in Britain, with a wealth of heritage and tradition, and they have their own standard of how their engines should work, that being with no fuss and full responsibility, come rain or shine."
"Shame some engines don't cut the crank pins," mumbled Hercule, shooting a glare at Louise.
"The London, Midland and Scottish Railway, the LMS, is the biggest of the 4 companies in the country," Duchess continued. "They have no such tradition, but they are highly successful, with their engines often having more modern designs. Such widespread land coverage and radical engineering makes the GWR feel intimidated, and the 2 companies are engaged in a feud which, in their minds, determines that only one is superior to the other. They both fight to get their engines work and jostle for ownership of land and network consistently."
"Hence why the 2 are always at each other's proverbial throats," grunted Lizzie. "Does that answer your bloomin' question so I can sleep?"
"Does it indeed, Midlander?" A nasty-sounding voice rang out from the side of the sheds. Before that same pannier clanked into view, a condescending sneer plastered over his smoke-box. 4760 shivered, but with Hercule on the shed road between them, she wasn't too frightened, and she didn't have to properly face him.
Lizzie frowned. "That wasn't aimed at you, Pannier," she said. "Get out of here."
"Why don't you go back to France where you belong?"
"Oh, you insolent little sack of—"
"Kingdom, we don't wish for confrontation," Duchess reproached.
"This doesn't concern you. Stop rising above your station and lording over the tradition that preceded you and your filthy kind before you invaded this line and let it be torn asunder."
"Oh, for goodness sake, stop acting so pretentious," hissed Louise. "Some of us work instead of preach and waste our time, so kindly leave us be."
"You dare to insinuate I preach? You pretentious, delicate thing!" Kingdom was outraged. "How dare you accuse me of preaching when you do nothing but make us Westerners look as if we are incompetent, effeminate machines that are destined to be doomed the moment we roll out of the work shed? You are a disgrace to your company and your railway. You disgust me. You sicken me. You—"
"Please shut the heck up, you're doing my tree in," growled Hercule crossly.
"I've been kept awake for long enough, and I have a good day's work tomorrow, so I intend to rest up, meaning I don't need you yammering on all night. If anything, you're as bad as Louise, if not worse, considering you break down all the time. Instead of telling Lizzie to go back to France, why don't you go back to the bloody Dark Ages and stay there for all I give a hoot?"
Kingdom seethed furiously, but after realizing he was being ganged up on, he slunk away,
mutterings and curses lost in a cloud of steam and clanking creaks. 4760 was again stunned into silence, and wished more fervently than ever that the big four companies didn't exist, so that no one would fight anymore. The next morning, Mr. Turner came to the sheds to explain a slight change to the engine's schedules. The Morton Hampstead branch was undergoing some light maintenance, so no trains would be running until that afternoon. "Until then, Louise," he said, "you'll work the shunting yard with Hercule."
"Oh dear, Brunel, not filthy trucks!"
"Shut up, you." Mr. Turner ignored the two engines bickering and turned to 4760. 4760, a slow goods needs to be taken up to Dawlish. One engine has already been rostered, but I'd like you to provide some more power. He's getting on and could use a helping hand. Would you do that for me?" 4760 smiled.
"I'll try, sir," she said.
"That's a good engine," Mr. Turner replied, nodding. And he turned away to head back to his office, leaving the engines to finish raising steam. 4760 was excited. So far, she hadn't been outside Newton Abbot before, nor had she been asked to pull a train with another engine. "Dawlish isn't far," Duchess encouraged. "It'll be a good opportunity to stretch your wheels a little and get some fresh air into your fire." 4760 didn't understand exactly how an engine's wheels could be stretched, but she let out a hearty whistle as she steamed away. When she got into the station, however, all her excitement fizzled away. "Calm down, Kingdom. The other engine is here, so we can go now." 4760 was very nervous. If she knew Kingdom was the rostered engine, she'd have had second thoughts about accepting her job so eagerly. Kingdom almost refused to leave as she backed down in front of him, making an awful racket as they finally pulled away, leaving Newton Abbot behind. Rostered with a Midland engine. A filthy Midlander. The Great Western standards are really slipping. This is absolutely insulting. Why can't all engines just stay where they belong and leave us Westerners alone, for goodness sake? Any upstanding engine and his crew with half a grain of sense would think I was falling apart or some such nonsense, and required this disgusting engine's help. Tell me, you rotten thing, what possessed you to grace my station with your presence? Why did you have to come and interfere with Great Western business and property?"
I was transferred here to help with motive power. There wasn't enough motive power,"
4760 whimpered. "How pathetic. You can't even put a sentence together. Engines who cannot even address their superiors properly are, quite frankly, a waste of man-hours and steam. I'll rejoice and cherish the moment when you leave, so I don't have to see your wretched little face again." "Kingdom, that's quite enough," scolded his driver. "You've done nothing but moan and complain since we left. Leave the poor engine alone." "It's hardly my fault," sniffed the pannier rudely. "Do you know, I would have actually preferred to have either of those insolent engines who insulted me, rather than this little useless so-and-so. At least the 4200. At least the 4200 and 14XX are proper engines. Proper Western engines." 4760 felt so insulted she felt she had to speak up. She didn't want Kingdom to hurt her anymore. Hercule wouldn't let someone talk to him like that.
"I am a proper engine," she insisted quietly. "I take on coal and water and make steam just like any other engine. I'm the same as you."
Kingdom immediately erupted into a cloud of steam, jerking the train to a halt outside Teignmouth.
Anything he had to say was drowned by the whooshing that erupted from every joint he possessed. When his driver and fireman finally managed to shut his regulator and dampen down his fire, they checked him over thoroughly for damage, and Kingdom never stopped ranting on. "I cannot believe you have the audacity to even think of saying we are the same. You are little more than a disgusting, filthy, useless piece of scrap with no idea of where you stand. You need to learn your place when you address me, miserable little Midlander. How dare you compare yourself to me? You cannot hold a candle to me, my brothers, or the legacy we forged for our railway. You weren't even designed, little more than a frantic wisp of imagination put to paper, whilst my brothers and I were slogging it out in order to uphold the great Western traditions we were built to fulfill." Kingdom's crew quickly hurried to 4760's cab and spoke with her crew. "Stupid engine's gone and locked his brakes on," his driver said grimly. "We can't get them off either. We run the risk of knackering his tyres if we go on." Each engine has a set of rims on their wheels called tyres, which protect the casted metal of the wheel. Much like motorcar tyres, the engine's tyres will wear down instead of the wheel itself. But if the brakes are locked on while the engine moves, they press against the tyres and eventually generate enough heat to cause these metal pieces to expand and come away from the wheel. If Kingdom were to move off and accidentally knock the train or 4760, his tyres could be gone in an instant. Both crews knew they would have to be very careful. As Kingdom's crew climbed into their engine's cab, 4760 called up to hers. "Driver? Is everything okay? What happened?" "Easy there, little un," her driver soothed. "We just need to be careful moving off, that's all." Leaning out of the cab, he whispered, "But don't let that stop you from showing up your veteran." He then reached up to give a big blast on 4760's whistle. Kingdom's crew responded in kind, and very cautiously the two engines began to move off. Kingdom didn't know anything was wrong and was cross at the lack of progress they were making. He tried to go faster, but his driver wouldn't let him. "Slow down, for goodness sakes, Kingdom, you'll go and wreck your tyres." "Nonsense, nothing is wrong. My wheels are burning with opportunity. Blame the Midlander for not getting steam up. Hurry up, you detestable failure. Get moving." And he bumped hard into the back of 4760 to make his point. But 4760 kept going on steadily, and the train made it into Teignmouth 15 minutes late. As porters bustled to unload the trucks, Kingdom's crew checked him over again, much to his chagrin. The station master approached 4760's cab, demanding why they were behind schedule. The driver explained the problem, before the station master irritably hurried away to organise an engine to arrange the trucks needed on the journey's second leg. 4760 was worried for Kingdom, despite her fear of him. "Are you okay, Kingdom?" she asked gently. Kingdom scoffed. "Don't concern yourself with me. I shan't fail on this journey. It's not how we Westerners are run. We don't just fall apart. We are properly engineered, well-oiled machines of beauty and grace." His voice darkened. "You should know better than to just callously inquire into business that is not relevant to you." The Ginty looked annoyed as she forced her eyes down to her running plate. "Sorry I asked," she grumbled. She was beginning to become fed up with Kingdom's endless degrading behaviour and general attitude. No engine deserved that kind of treatment. It was uncalled for. Soon the train was ready to continue on to Dawlish. 4760 called out, "Are you ready?" "Get on with it!" Kingdom yelled. 4760 wheeshed loudly and began to move off. Then there was trouble. A loud crack was followed by the awful noise of screeching metal. Steam billowed everywhere, and voices suddenly rose up and mingled together. In the chaos, 4760 felt herself be uncoupled and moved away. She was taken by surprise at the sudden commotion. "What's going on?" she cried. "Kingdom's wheels are spinning," replied her driver. "Moving around like stabbed rats, they are." "Think his tyres have gone?" the fireman wondered. "Wouldn't be a huge surprise," muttered the driver, as he brought the Ginty to a halt beyond the platform. The damage was soon clear. Kingdom's tyres had indeed failed, and all his wheels were smoking from the heat. 4760 couldn't tell if he was derailed or not, but it certainly looked like it, because his tyres were unaligned. His crew was cross, and so was the station master. "That's gone and done it," the driver seethed. "You'll have to be taken off the train, Kingdom, you sodding great Burke. There's no way you can go on with wheels like that. Can another engine be spared?" "No," huffed the station master. "I haven't one available. We can move him to a siding to avoid further incident, but the Ginty will have to go it alone."
"Alone? Just me?"
4760 was taken aback. She hadn't expected to be shouldered with a freight run by herself. "Afraid to take on a single slow goods, are you?" jeered the pannier as he was uncoupled. "I dare say you—" "Shut up!" 4760 had had enough of Kingdom talking to her like she was below him. She was still a little afraid of Kingdom, but she knew none of the other engines would let him do that, especially Hercule. Now she was going to try and be brave and stand no more nonsense. She called out to the station master.
"Please, sir, I can get the train to Dawlish. Couple me up."
Her driver and fireman cheered her on from the cab, as did Kingdom's crew from the platform. Kingdom was still speechless as he was dragged away, and 4760 backed down and was coupled on. "Have at 'em, little un," her driver called. "Let's show that Kingdom what a filthy Midlander can do, eh?" The guard blew his whistle, and with a loud barking noise and plenty of steam, 4760 pulled away and stormed down the line. Her fire burnt brightly, and with plenty of pressure in her boiler, the Ginty performed well, even managing to regain a couple of minutes that were lost as she blazed along the sea wall, her paintwork glistening in the late afternoon sunshine. By the time 4760 returned to Teignmouth to collect Kingdom, it was almost dark. Neither engine said anything as they were coupled up and steamed away. Kingdom kept shooting dirty looks at 4760 to try and intimidate her, but the Ginty completely ignored him, and, within an hour or two, both engines were back at Newton Abbot. Kingdom was shunted into the works shed, and 4760 puffed away to get a drink. Her crew were very pleased. "Well done you," her driver smiled. "I don't even know why we needed that ruddy Kingdom to begin with. If anything, he was slowing us down."
4760 didn't think so. "It was his train after all. I was only there to help."
"Well, you certainly did that," the driver agreed. "You helped him out of trouble, then went above and beyond the call of duty to get the goods to Dawlish. Even if we were late, I'd say that's more than a worthy performance from a Midland engine." "And easily enough to butt heads with any Westerner," said the fireman. "You'll be the talk of the yards, you will, 4760. Just you wait." And sure enough, when 4760 was taken to the shed, everyone was eager to find out what had happened to Kingdom, and how she had gotten on with the train. "We saw you shunt him away," Hercule prattled. "Go on, love, tell us what happened. Did that rotten old loony finally get what was coming to him?" When 4760 had finished explaining everything that had happened, the engines were all firmly of the opinion that Kingdom had gotten exactly what he deserved.
"Bloody serves him right," smirked Lizzie. "I was in half a mind to go after him myself after last night, but I think that little bit of cruel irony serves just as well."
I knew that it was only a matter of time before that Kingdom finally decided he wanted to kick the bucket, Louise scoffed. It was just a question of how and when, if you want my opinion.
"For once it's duly noted," joked Hercule. "I always wanted Kingdom to go out with a bang. Nothing but an old pile of misery he was." "Right pain in the backside for every engine here," grunted Lizzie. "Maybe now we'll finally get some peace and quiet."
"Perhaps, Lizzie," said a voice. The engines stopped and looked, to see Mr. Turner walking towards them, a lantern in hand. "I've heard all about today's events. The station master at Teignmouth was kind enough to telephone through and inform me of the day's interesting proceedings." He smiled at the newest addition to his fleet. 4760, I am very pleased with your actions today. It was a bit of a gamble to bring you here, but it looks like it's going to pay off, as long as you work hard with whatever task you are given.
"Thank you, sir," 4760 replied happily. "I'll try my best, sir, I promise."
"Splendid. I'm very happy to hear that."
"Please, sir," 4760 suddenly asked, "what will happen to Kingdom? Will he be repaired, sir?"
"I think he ought to be scrapped," said Hercule boldly. Lizzie rumbled a "Hear, hear" in response. "Now that's no way to speak of another engine," Mr. Turner scolded. "It isn't Kingdom's fault that he acts as he does. It is just the environment he was surrounded with in his youth, and it is what he believes in. His opinions may be radically outdated, but we cannot force Kingdom to change, nor should we be so critical of him just because we disagree with him. He is still a respected engine and colleague with a good work ethic. I shan't have you talk about him like that. As for the answer to your question, 4760, he continued, I don't yet know what will happen to Kingdom. It is far too late to examine him now, and, whilst he may have some chance of repairs, his fate is yet to be determined. It may be more cost-effective to rebuild him than replace his broken parts. We shall just have to see." And he turned and walked away. All the engines were quiet for a short moment. It wasn't long before 4760's curiosity overcame her.
"Rebuild Kingdom?"
"Many of Kingdom's brothers have either been withdrawn or rebuilt into another class of engine," Duchess explained. "It wouldn't take very much labour for him to be rebuilt into a new engine." "If ever that does happen, let's just hope all the nastiness gets taken out too," said Lizzie in a low voice. "Then he may actually be bearable enough to live with." "I wouldn't get your hopes up," Hercule murmured. "Chances are he's still going to be the same old Kingdom, only much tougher to break. I say we still scrap him."
"I agree," said Louise. "There are still plenty of pannier tank engines being built. One Kingdom is hardly going to make a dent in motive power."
4760 wasn't sure she liked how they were talking about Kingdom. Hearing Mr. Turner's little speech had made her think things over, and she was uncomfortable with how Lizzie, Hercule and Louise acted like Kingdom was easily expendable. He was still able to have a second chance, even if he was rude to her and made her frightened. "What do you think, 4760? The little Ginty was pulled out of her reflections by Duchess calling her.
"Were you saying something?"
I was asking your opinion on what you think Kingdom's future should be, Duchess explained. The majority vote is that Kingdom should be scrapped for his actions. Especially after the way he treated you. Hercule was quick to point out Kingdom's revilement of 4760 the moment she had arrived. At the very least, he needs to have something sharp taken to him. 4760 never responded. She couldn't quite form her own answer. She wanted to not feel frightened around Kingdom, but she didn't know how to go about it. It certainly didn't seem fair that Kingdom should be scrapped. If anything, his constant exultations towards the Great Western Railway proved he had a lot of fight left in him. He could carry on steaming a good while yet. But he was a difficult engine to cooperate with. Should he be forced to change his ways? Or should Hercule, Lizzie and the others be forced to change theirs? 4760 almost thought that maybe she should change her behaviour, but quickly discounted that idea, as she had already decided she would stand no more nonsense from Kingdom. What should be done? The little Ginty yawned loudly. She had had a long and tiring day and could barely keep her eyes open. She felt weighed down by thinking about Kingdom and railway companies and all the injustices she had learned of. Indeed, what was to be done? Where would things go from here? Hopefully, tomorrow might shed some new light on the whole issue, and everyone could finally be able to live together in peace. Yes, 4760 fervently wished for that, as she drifted off to sleep.